After almost 2 years since its last broadcast, ReZero Season 3 has finally been announced. Along with that, other anime announcements at AnimeJapan involving Haremiya, Spy X Family, and Mushoku Tensei also have announced, creating massive discourse in the anime community. I'm Israel King. Welcome to the Otaku Experience. The Otaku Experience is made possible by Robert Meyer Burnett, all the great folks at the Burnett Network, and of course you, our viewers. Thank you very much. All right, so over the weekend, AnimeJapan. Yeah, this was, leading up to it, there wasn't a lot of talk about what was going on, except for one thing, which was ReZero, which we'll get into in a little bit. But the lead up to it was kind of very silent. Like, everybody was just like, okay, cool. We'll see what happens. Like Licorice Recoil was announced to be there and like nothing came out about them, at least nothing substantial. Like nobody talked about what happened in their panel. It was crazy. So I think overall the AnimeJapan experience, I guess gets like a 55 out of 100. So I guess just barely okay rather than bad. But regardless, it was a really weird thing. Honestly, I think a lot, not just myself, but a lot of people in the anime community, I think, forgot that it was taking place over the weekend until the week of. And then, you either knew that week that it was about to happen or you remembered on the day of, because suddenly announcements filling up your entire feed. My feed over the entire weekend was, oh my gosh, I can't believe this was announced. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love ReZero. I love Spy Family, and so it was a really weird experience leading up to like this thing that almost like CinemaCon in a way, or like Comic-Con. Like this is a thing where a lot of anime announcements happen, it's like, bro, ReZero is going to be here. I mean, I guess everybody just knew that season 3 was going to be announced, but I don't know. I think there were still some people putting their money on it being like a stupid mobile game or something, which they also announced. They also announced the stupid mobile game. But anyways, it was a really weird experience with AnimeJapan this year, and hopefully it gets more hype next year. Hopefully they market it a bit better, because I think that the marketing really did a disservice overall to the AnimeJapan experience this year. Anywho, ReZero Season 3 was announced at AnimeJapan. It was, I believe, one of the first announcements, as well as probably the biggest announcement of the entire thing. It sucked for everything else that came after it, because I think that there were some pretty cool announcements that came out after that announcement. Maybe not as cool, but still pretty cool announcements. And then, none of them were talked about, because it was like, oh, this happened. ReZero's back. One of the biggest isekai, if not the biggest isekai that's in modern anime right now. This is almost like as if you go to Comic-Con and Marvel does their panel first, does all of their announcements, and then you go to another studio and it's like, well, we don't care. All of the headliners just dropped. Marvel, I mean, I guess nowadays Marvel is kind of in a weird situation, but like 3 years ago, like 2019, Prime Marvel, dude, yeah, I mean, they'd be unstoppable. But anyways, so I personally, I'll give you a little context with my feelings on ReZero. I personally, I like the first season of ReZero a lot. I like the first half of the second season, because they split it into two halves when it aired. I like the first half of the second season of ReZero less than I liked the first season. And then I thought the second half of the second season of ReZero, try to follow me here. When I first got into anime, and this was one of the first anime I watched seasonally, was ReZero. Season 2, it was so hard to keep track of like this season, this part, this, and then Attack on Titan. This is like a scholar. This should be its own course, like anime titles and release dates. But anyways, I thought that season 2, part 2 of ReZero was probably the weakest the show has ever been. And I honestly found myself not enjoying it all that much, because I felt that it had gotten overdrawn out and that it had become self-indulgent in a way. That the scenes, I felt, to me personally, started before the purpose of the scene started, and then they kept going after the purpose of the scene ended. So it's almost like, that saying in Hollywood where it's like all killer, no filler, or start a scene as late as possible and end a scene as early as possible. So that way you're not boring the audience. You're only showing what absolutely needs to be shown. I kind of wish that was the case. They did something with the first season of ReZero that I thought they could have done with the second season, which was a director's cut, where after they aired the anime, I forget if it was for like an anniversary or if they just did it right after. But they had like extended versions of the episodes that they called the director's cut. There was more violence that was not as censored. The episodes were longer. And they did that. And I felt like I was watching the director's cut of season 2 rather than just the refined version of season 2, which I feel like I would have preferred as my first time watching season 2 and then watched a director's cut with more lore and everything like that, and I would have gotten a bigger appreciation from it. It's kind of how I feel about the Lord of the Rings extended editions, because I really like is an understatement. I love the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I think it's probably the greatest trilogy of all time. And when I watch the extended editions, I find myself, even though I love the theatrical cuts, I find myself struggling to get through the extended editions simply because I find there's so many things that didn't need to be in there, you know, but I'm able to watch them because I know the original story and I'm able to just appreciate the expansion of the world, right, of Middle Earth. And that's like kind of what they did with the first season of ReZero, but that's not what they did with the second season of ReZero. And so I'm excited for season 3 of ReZero, simply because overall, I liked season 1. I liked the first half of season 2. So far, they got me. So far, you're good for me. But I mean, if season 3 is anything like, or if it's a lot like the second half of season 2, that does scare me, because I'm scared that there will be things that feel, to me personally, too drawn out, or things that feel like they're hitting me over the head with something that I've already gotten, and you don't need to just go out and tell me what's going on. I can understand subtext, and I can understand foreshadowing. You don't have to explain everything, you know. And that was one of my biggest problems with season 2. Now, that being said, I'm in the minority on that, because a lot of people loved season 2, or part 2 of season 2 of ReZero, and for a lot of people that was like their anime of the year, or it was in a lot of people's top half of their top 10, you know, like in their top 5 or above. But anyways, with this season 3 announcement, I just figured I'd give you a little bit of context, because I don't think we've talked about ReZero on the Otaku Experience before. So they're doing, I don't think they announced when it's coming out. They just announced, hey, we're doing it, which is also really weird, because ReZero, like I said before, is one of, if not the single biggest isekai that is currently going on in modern anime right now. I mean, I guess your contenders would be like Mushoku Tensei, or what's it called? How to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, Sword Art Online, if you consider that an isekai, which there's a debate about that, but generally it's in there. But other than like those, I feel like this is like your biggest, like far and away, like your biggest isekai airing. And so I think it baffled so many people, including myself, when not only did season 2 take more than half a decade to come out after season 1, and I guess we can cut them a little bit of slack because the pandemic kind of killed all of anime production for that year and pushed a lot of shows off. And we're still kind of seeing the effects of that now. Less so, it's going away, but we're still seeing some of the effects now. But I think that the fact that it took still, like, take out the pandemic, it still would have been like 4 years after the first season. It's like, how did you even do that? And then this third season, like I said before, is coming out basically 2 years after the second season ended. And it's like, what took you so long? You knew you were going to do it. We knew you were going to do it. It's one of the biggest hits in anime. Every time that ReZero comes out, it's one of the most watched anime of the year. We know this. Everybody loves it. It's critically acclaimed. It's audience acclaimed. It has great animation. People love it. Why is it taking this long to announce it? And so, I mean, a lot of people, including myself, were hoping that they end up going to a different studio, because this is just getting ridiculous. I mean, I don't want to give them to MAPPA, but give them to MAPPA. You know what I mean? But so they did not announce a release date for this season, so we don't know when it's coming out. If I had to wager, I'd probably guess it's going to be sometime in 2024, because if it was this year, they would have announced it. They wouldn't have announced something that's not coming out this year. I'm going to say it's going to... I would predict early on, this is an early prediction, I'm welcome to change my mind at any point, but my early prediction is that it's probably going to follow the second season's example. And so part 1 of, I'm assuming they're going to split it into 2 parts like they did with season 2. So part 1 of season 3 is going to air in the summer of 2024. And then part 2 gosh, there's a lot here. Part 2 of season 3 is going to air in winter of 2025. That would be my prediction of it, which sucks that it's that far off. I mean, the soonest I could see this airing, since they did not give a release date, which means it's not airing this year, the soonest is winter of 2024, which would be less than a year from now, about 9 months. But if that's the case, I still don't know why they wouldn't have fully announced it, or at least given like a year. I mean, maybe they gave a year, but I went through all the articles that covered it, and I didn't see anything about any release date. On top of that, they also released a cool little new trailer. I mean, it's cool as far as anime trailers goes. I think we've talked about the fact that I don't really like anime trailers all that much, in the sense that I don't think that they don't sell me on something I'm not already sold on. So since I'm already sold on season 3, I was able to just look at the cool animation and see what's going on. I think it looks cool. And they released a fun little celebratory poster for ReZero season 3, and I thought it was fun. It was like they knew that it was a celebration. They're like, guys, it finally got announced. Like, this shouldn't be the case, man. Like this should be as easy as like it's like if all the actors like Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and oh no, how did I forget Ron's actor from Harry Potter? Oh no! Oh, this is gonna plague me. I gotta look it up. But anyway, while I'm doing that, I'll finish what I was saying. It's like having all the actors, the main actors in Harry Potter, wanting to do another Harry Potter movie, but then Warner Brothers being like, you know what? Nah, we don't need to do that. You know what I mean? It makes absolutely no sense. This should be an easy to do. Okay, what's this guy's name? This guy's name is Rupert Grint. How did I forget Rupert's name? I love Rupert Grint. He was so good in Knock at the Cabin recently. But anyways, now, aside from my personal anticipation of it, just looking at it going in without anyone else's opinion, just mine. Now I want to talk about how other people's opinions have kind of swayed my look on things. So my friend is, I guess you could call him a ReZero connoisseur. He loves ReZero. You know, I think it's like the only web novel that he straight up just reads. And he doesn't watch a lot of anime. He doesn't read anything manga related or light novel or webtoon, whatever. But ReZero is that one. And he's had his fair complaints about the rate at which the anime is airing and everything like that. But the funny thing is that he said that even though he really likes ReZero as a whole, he said that he thinks that the arc that they're about to cover, the next arc in season 3, is like the worst part of ReZero. And I heard this and I went, oh no! But on the other hand, everybody else that I've seen talk about this, ReZero season 3 coming out, probably the biggest supporter being Chibi Reviews, is who's also a really good source if you want anime news. Check out Chibi Reviews. He does more daily stuff, whereas I'm only able to talk about the biggest stories of the week. He can talk about like every story that happens, you know. But everybody else is super excited for this season. So I mean, it's kind of I guess it's one versus the many, but I trust this one. You know what I mean? So it's like my friend who I know, who I've trust, I've watched a lot of anime with him. We've talked about ReZero a lot. We've debated because we have opposing views on a lot of the story things. It's funny how it's like, it's one person, but he's against it and everybody else is for it. But I'm like, but I know this guy and I trust his opinion. But anywho, that's what happened with ReZero. ReZero is such a strange situation. Hopefully they greenlight the next 4 seasons, because this is ridiculous. Because My Hero Academia has been going on for like 7 years now, and they just announced season 7, and we'll talk about that in a second. But it's just so weird what's going on with ReZero. Hopefully, either they fix their release pattern or they get the rights to another studio. But Haremia, which was an anime that I loved, it came out the same season as ReZero season 2 part 2. Was one of my favorite anime of the year that it came out, 2021, I believe, 2021. I believe it was in my top 5, up there with like Fruits Basket, The Final, Attack on Titan, The Final Season, Part 1, back when we were at Part 1. Now we're at Part 3, Part 1. It's ridiculous. And then obviously my favorite of the year would be Wonder Egg Priority. Sunny Boy was in there as well. It was up there. It was a show that I loved. And I personally, looking back on it, when it comes to purely slice of life romance shows, I think that Haremia is one of, if not the best anime slice of life romance shows. And now trust me, I haven't seen every slice of life romance show ever in anime. I'm still relatively new to the anime scene. There are a lot of anime that I need to watch. And there are a lot of anime that I haven't had time to watch because I cover anime seasonally. And it's really hard to cover something unless it comes back. Or unless something new happens with it. And so while I'm saying that Haremia, to me right now, based on the anime that I've seen, is the best slice of life romance anime that there is. Which is funny because a lot of people really liked the anime, but at the same time, there was a contingent of people, mainly manga readers, who were very upset at the anime because the anime cut a lot of stuff out. This was an anime that if it was very faithful to the manga, like a lot of manga adaptations are, you could have done like 3 12-episode seasons at minimum. You know, like you could have done that and spread this out. But the studio did the creative decision, which I thought was ultimately the best decision because I loved the show. I loved how it turned out. I loved the pacing of it. They took that entire manga that could have been, you know, like 3 seasons worth of stuff, and they chopped it down to just 12 episodes, and they released that. And I felt that it created a very tight moving story. Like oh no, it's a rom-com anime. Okay. The characters get together like in the first 2-3 episodes. It's incredibly fast. Most characters can't even make eye contact till the end of season 3. It's crazy. And I love that pacing of it. But a lot of people were very upset at how much they cut out because they felt that there were things that didn't get the payoff that they deserved by the end that they did in the manga, simply because there wasn't enough to that. As someone who didn't read the manga, I cannot attest to that. All I'll say is that the anime, for me, everything worked just about perfectly. But that's where this comes in, because I wonder if they heard those criticisms and decided to do this, or if this was always part of the plan. Either way, Haremia is returning with Haremia Peace is the name of it. And basically what they're doing is they're going to be adapting stories that were not adapted in the original anime. And like I said, I don't know if they heard critiques about Haremia, the anime, the original series, and they were like, hey, maybe we should go back and adapt those because the original first season was a huge success. Now let's go get more money and let's greenlight this, you know? Or if this was already part of the plan or whatever. They said the entire cast is returning. I don't believe that they've given a release date for this either. And as someone who loved Haremia, I don't expect like a full-on story. I'm expecting maybe mini arcs that are kind of like anthology that like take place within the overall Haremia thing, but are kind of all over the place, kind of like Clone Wars, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, if you've seen that. And so I'm obviously very excited for it. The only thing I'm nervous about is, like I said, that it's not going to be like a full-on narrative like the first season was, and it might feel at the end of the day pointless. I hope that's not the case, and I hope that it ultimately adds to what I think currently, if not, or is one of, if not the greatest rom-com anime of all time. Okay, Spy Family also had a huge announcement at AnimeJapan. They announced the release dates for season 2 and the movie, which we talked about a few weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. And we kind of had an interesting discussion about whether or not that was going to be or how they were going to handle that situation, because they had a movie and they had season 2, and they said that, yeah, they're both going to end, in the final quarter of the year. And everybody was like, huh? How is that going to work? Is the movie based on like a manga chapter and then it's going to feed right into it? Is it based on, is it something original, like Sword Art Online or Ordinal Scale, and then it's going to go into the anime? Is it after the anime? Is this a prerequisite to watch season 2? Is it after? Is it a big finale? Who knows? Well, now we do know. And they have said that the movie is going to be an original movie. And I believe it's called Code. I forgot the name. I have notes here. Where are my notes for Spy Family? Hang on. Spy Family. Wow, this is really unprofessional, guys. While we're doing this, I had a really crazy week. It's Code White. That's the name. Spy Family Code White. But yeah, I've had an insane week and I've been super behind on everything and I'm going to lose sleep over this, but it's fine. Spy Family Code White, I believe is the name. I think this is they said it's an anime original, so I'm assuming that this might be like a mission or something, because it's like Code White. And so I'm like, oh, because the code's in there. I'm like, oh, it's a mission that maybe wraps up like the other two, like Yor and Anya, the two girls, and they get enwrapped in this mystery that Lloyd is in. I don't know. Who knows? It's an anime original. And it's airing at the end of season 2, which will air in October or fall of this year, 2023. And I'm excited for it. I think that this is the best option, because I was really scared that it was going to be like I guess you could say like a Demon Slayer situation, except remove the Mugen Train anime. You only have the Mugen Train movie and then go into the next season. I was scared that it was going to be something like that, where the movie is like a prerequisite to see what happens in season 2. And maybe it's like a mini arc, or maybe like Jujutsu Kaisen 0, where it's a thing that's too small to be in an anime. So they're like, hey, let's just do a movie out of it, and then we're going to move on to season 2. But since they were so close, I was scared, and they didn't specify which was coming first. I'm glad that they said that the movie is original and that season 2 is coming before then, because as we know, a lot of times anime movies, Japanese movies, I'm stuttering all over my words, anime films take a long time to get overseas. It's like usually like 4, 5, 6 months, sometimes even like closer to a year to get overseas, particularly to North America, which is where I live. And I was really scared that it was going to be something that you needed to watch before season 2, and that they weren't going to do a recap or anything. And it's like, okay, I guess we just can't watch season 2 for a year. I'm glad they didn't do that, because that was a stupid mistake. The only reason why I even thought that would be a possibility, because I know what you're thinking, Israel, no company would ever do that. They're not that stupid. You have not been in the anime industry long enough if you think that's the case. I've seen anime companies do the most backwards minded things. Like we just saw with Demon Slayer and Ufotable releasing that stupid movie in theaters and wasting my money. Anywho, so that's pretty cool, and I'm excited to see how that plays out now that we have more information on that. And I think that's going to be pretty cool, because I don't know if season 2 is going to be as long as season 1. This might be a 12-episode season rather than a 2-core season. And if that's the case, if that's the case, then season 3 might not come out until late 2024 or early 2025, and then we have a movie to kind of stave off our Anya need before the next season comes out. So that'll be fun. All right, then we had Mushoku Tensei do their thing. And Mushoku Tensei, obviously, like I said, with ReZero, one of the biggest isekai out right now. And Mushoku Tensei easily established itself up in those ranks as well, with its first season back in 2021 as well. And that was also a lot of people's favorite anime of that year, or in their top few. Like with ReZero Season 2, I did not love Mushoku Tensei. I thought Mushoku Tensei... it was very weird, because I liked the first half of the first core and I liked the second half of the second core, but that chunk in the middle of like 12 episodes, I was like, this is just weird. And so it was one of those anime where I really could not tell how I felt about it. So I went through episode by episode, and I looked at like a chart, and I looked at the synopsis of every episode to remember what it was about. And I basically wrote like whether I liked or I didn't like it next to it. And I think I came out to it being like 2 episodes more than the other amount. So it was like, I don't remember if it was 24 episodes exactly, but let's just say for argument, it was 24 episodes total. And so an even split would be 12 and 12. I liked 14 episodes more than I disliked the other 10. You know what I mean? And so it just barely entered the cusp of me liking it. So I like Mushoku Tensei, and I said at the end of season 2, or at the end of season 1 core 2, that I was excited to see where the show went. I felt that it started entering especially in that later part that I liked in the second half of Mushoku Tensei. It really entered an area where the series started to mature and the characters started their overall journeys, and it wasn't just introductions anymore. And I was really excited to see where the show went. I still think that they made some really baffling mistakes in terms of their storytelling that was in the source material in the manga and the light novel. Like there's a scene with Eris and Rudius in the tent where she knows she has to leave him, so she like seduces him because she knows that because she feels helpless when he's not there, and so she needs to go and prove that she's capable, and so she's going to leave him, but she's in love with him, so she sleeps with him before she leaves, and Rudius has, abandonment issues, and she knows this, so she's going to do it anyways. But there's all of this that's not even said, but it's all in the subtext in the source material. But in the anime, there's so little of it, and they sacrifice a lot of just visual storytelling. Like if you look in the manga, there are certain panels that show certain emotions on Eris's face, or certain angles that convey different emotions that you kind of understand exactly what she means without them even having to write words. That's the power of an image, obviously. And, that saying that an image is 1,000 words, right? But they took all that out in that scene. And when I was watching it, I was like, wow, Eris sucks. Like, she's just seducing my boy, because Rudius was like, nah, I'm not. I know you're in like a really sad place right now. I'm not going to do that. And then she was like, yes, you will now. And Rudius was like, all right, man. And then I was like, oh, this is, I felt really uncomfortable while it was happening. One, because they were kids. Luckily, they didn't show anything. But two, because they removed every aspect of me having, every aspect of me being able to understand how Eris was feeling. Like, I was like, I think I know what they're going for, but they did not do it at all. And then I was like, they should have had this and this and this. And then when I looked into the source material, I saw that they already had those things, which was very infuriating to me. So I hope that with the second season of Mushoku Tensei, that they keep on that mature span. I mean, obviously it's an adaptation, so they can't really listen to criticism about the anime other than what to adapt and what not to adapt. And regarding adaptation, I think that they should adapt more. Try to stay faithful. Try to understand subtext. Not every change is for the best. I understood why they decided to change things. I don't agree with it. Like I said, I think that there were things that they missed out on heavily. They missed out on huge emotional impact moments that could have been huge emotional impact moments, because they decided to take things out that literally, a shot that would have lasted 2 seconds on the screen would have explained so much in that character. I don't want to go on this rant. You can watch my fall 2021 seasonal review if you want to hear my thoughts on that. But so anyways, I never bring up Mushoku Tensei around me because I'll just go off on that tangent every time. But so with this second season, I hope that they try to stick more, that they try to be more careful with things that they change. When it's an adaptation, choose that, hey, this is going to make a better anime series, let's do this. Or this is going to have a greater impact on the audience, rather than changing things for maybe a stylistic change, or maybe because you want to highlight something else in sacrifice of a huge character moment. Or maybe find a way to do both. I mean, hey, we were just talking about Harimia basically chopping out like 60% of the manga to do the anime. I mean, just do something like that here with Mushoku Tensei. Don't cut stuff out, but you know what I mean. Adaptation. Don't be scared to adapt, okay? But other than that, there's been a very interesting discourse on the trailer that they released for Mushoku Tensei. I'm already sold on the season. I'm already going to check it out. And so I watched the trailer, and it didn't really affect my opinion on it. The only thing I thought was interesting was the animation, and that's what the discourse is on, is how the trailer looked. And that there's a debate going on about whether or not the animation as a whole is going to be below what it was in the first season, that maybe they dropped the budget on the show a little bit, maybe it didn't perform to their standards, and then other people are looking at the trailer and being like, it looks even better. What are you talking about? Personally, I agree with the side that thinks it looks lower, but I'm not fully with the conclusion that maybe the budget was lowered. I think that this was just one of those cases, and we've seen this with the anime trailers in the past, not all of them, but there have been a few cases where this is the case, where the anime trailer is just rendered in like 480 quality, and they just throw it up on the internet. It's like, who freaking, rendered this out of like a raccoon's butt and then put that on the internet? I don't know, but that we've seen that happen before. And so the animation, while it looked to me a lot cheaper and a lot less detailed, could have just been from the fact that they just rendered it maybe unfinished, or maybe because it's still like 3 months out, and we know a lot of anime is like, other than the first 3 episodes, is being animated during the week of it airing. And so maybe a lot of the stuff in the trailer just wasn't ready yet, and they were just like, quickly animate this so we can throw it in the trailer and have an action sequence. I don't know. But while I think that it looked less than the quality that the first season was, I'm not ready to say that that's the case. So that's kind of my stance on that discourse. But I understand both parties, and let's not try to insult anybody just because of their they think it looks better or they think it looks worse. You know what I mean? Okay, so High Card is an anime that was airing during winter 2023. I have started it. I have not finished it just yet. But from what I've seen, I like the show. I think it's pretty fun. I like the characters. I like the kind of the rules that it set up, the premise. I think all that's pretty fun. And they announced at AnimeJapan that it is going to get a second season. They have not announced anything else. They released a little teaser poster, but they did not release anything else. There's no release date. There's no trailer. We know nothing about it other than the fact that it's coming. So, hey, cool. All right, before we get into the rest of this week's news, I must tell you about the brand new show coming to the Burr Network. From the people that brought you the Designing Hollywood podcast, Architects of Imagination, a game developer podcast, hosted by David Johnson, launches on April 15th, 2023. Here is a preview.
Well, greetings, Imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I am here to tell you about a very exciting new show that drops on the Burr Network on April 15th at 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Architects of Imagination, a game developer podcast. Brought to you by the people that brought you Designing Hollywood. Architects of Imagination will introduce you to the people that are behind some of the greatest video games of all time. You'll learn the ins and outs, how they're created, what goes into their creation, how difficult it is from the inside. It's an incredible show. Let's take a look at Architects of Imagination.
Hi, this is David Johnson. My friends call me DJ, and this is Architects of Imagination. I am here with my friend Eben Cook from Naughty Dog. Hey. We are both dressed up in suits right now. We are filming our first episode in Hollywood, California. And just after this, Eben is nominated for a VES award. So we're headed over to the awards gala. Good luck tonight, Eben.
Thanks. Yeah, fingers crossed.
All right. Tune into the episode when it airs. This is DJ from Architects of Imagination.
As you can imagine, I am extremely excited to bring you Architects of Imagination, a game developer podcast, to bring it to you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. It's another great show, once again, brought to you by the same producers of Designing Hollywood. Check it out. Comment below. Tell us what you think. It's another show you can get only right here on the Burr Network.
Executive producer Martiki Ibarra and producer VFX artist and host David Johnson, in association with Designing Hollywood Productions and Undertone Effects, have teamed up to produce an all-new podcast show dedicated to all things video games and its creators. David Johnson was the lead visual effects artist at Activision and Blizzard's Infinity Ward studio, creator of the Call of Duty franchise, having worked there for 10 years. David has 22 years of computer graphics experience, of which 20 have been dedicated to video games and 15 specialized toward effects. David has shipped 20 plus video games and has contributed to some of the largest names in the video game history, including the Call of Duty and Halo franchises. The podcast launches on April 15, 2023 on the Burr Network YouTube channel and on all podcast platforms. I have been excited for this show. I think it's going to be super interesting. As someone who wants to get more into video games, but just hasn't been able to, I've played things like The Last of Us. I've played things like Genshin Impact, the Lego Star Wars games. Does Geometry Dash count? I'm really good at that. And as someone who kind of wants to get a little bit more into video games and see how video games are made and get into that, because I do think that video games are cool and we know how much time goes into video games, and I'd just love to know more about the process. I'm super excited to check out this show, and I hope that you guys check it out as well. Architects of Imagination, only on the Burr Network. All right, so outside of AnimeJapan, we had other anime announcements that came with the finale of some shows. If you're new to the anime community, basically, a lot of times when an anime ends, after the end credits of the final episode, they'll have a title or a reveal of the next season, be like, hey, we just got confirmed for a next season. Thanks for watching, everything like that. And sometimes they'll even give a quick release date or whatever. And then if you go to like YouTube or something, they'll release a trailer and a poster, whatever. And so we had a couple of those this past week, starting with Trigun Stampede is getting a sequel announced. Now, they were very unspecific with this, at least from the sources that I checked, that they only said a sequel. They did not specify whether this was going to be a season 2 or if this was going to be a movie. So we don't know. I'm assuming it's probably just going to be a season 2 rather than a movie, but who knows? Maybe they're going to capitalize on all that box office money. But either way, I have liked Trigun Stampede. I have not seen the original just yet. I plan to watch it. And so I cannot compare the two as to which is better. I assume the original is better because it's a classic. But I've liked Trigun Stampede so far. And I'm excited for the sequel. I'm excited to see where the story continues to go. I think that they are doing probably some of the best 3D animation in terms of anime that I've seen in a long time, particularly with only the human type characters, not counting like Beastars or Belle doesn't really count either because they had like 2 humanoid looking people in that 3D movie. Everyone else was kind of non-humanoid, whether they were monsters or insects or whatever. And usually 3D animation doesn't look all that great. I mean, look at X-Arm. But I felt that Trigun Stampede has done a pretty good job at finding that balance to make it look natural and to make it also look 3D without it taking away the effect of the anime appeal that we love so much. And so hopefully they're able to keep that magic going and that other studios see that and kind of go, hey, let's copy what they're doing over there if we want to do 3D, because I think that it's worked out pretty well. All right, other than that, we had Blue Lock end as well. And when it ended, they announced that I'm too excited. I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, wow, these are some great stories. Okay, Blue Lock season 2 and movie announced. So at the end of Blue Lock, they announced that season 2 and a movie coming out. Now, they have not given any release dates for these, so we don't know when they're coming out. I'm assuming probably sometime in 2024. And the movie will adapt the episode Nagi spinoff manga. Nagi is one of the supporting characters in Blue Lock, and they're going to kind of go about him and follow, I guess, his backstory and really expand upon that. And I think that's an interesting choice to do a movie about that, because I guess you really need to be confident to be like, hey, let's make a movie about this rather than just adapting it in like a 4-episode arc, so I think that'll be pretty interesting to see, as well as a season 2, because obviously we know that Blue Lock is real. They're doing a real life Blue Lock tournament. We talked about that last week. And so it's become a sensation. I've really enjoyed it. I need to finish the first season. But I'm already excited for the second season just because it's so much fun. It's so intense. It's so crazy. I love it. Other than that, we had My Hero Academia season 7 announced. Duh. And this came as a surprise to nobody. I don't even know why this was a headline. I don't even know why I have to talk about it. But other than the fact that I think it's interesting, My Hero Academia has gone on for 7 seasons in a row now. I believe in just around a decade. I don't know if we're over, I don't know if we're under, but I feel like we're right there. We're just about a decade since the first season came out. And ReZero in that time has had less than 3 seasons. So I don't know what's up with that. They need to take some lessons from the other studio that's doing My Hero Academia and apply that to ReZero. Other than that, we had Bungo Stray Dogs season 5 get announced, and that is actually coming this summer, which to me, when I heard that, I was like, well, then that's not season 5. That is season 4 core 2. But they're calling it season 5. I don't know. Maybe their marketing people are like, hey, call it season 5. We'll get better, ratings. I don't know. I don't know why they do this. I don't know why anime things do what they do. It's all arbitrary. Nobody cares. Life's a game. We're all ones and zeros. None of this matters. And with all the real news out of the way, we can get into probably my favorite segment of the show these days, the Goofy Woofy anime community. All right, so your dogs is cold when you're walking around the house. I'm not talking about your actual dog. I'm talking about your toes. Your toes is cold. It sounds like I'm doing like a super weird sponsorship. What I'm here to announce is that they have released Pochita slippers. So if your dogs are cold, you can just, I don't even know how to segue into this with the Chainsaw Man punchline. You can rev up those toes with the Pochita slippers. Only, I really am doing an ad for these. I don't know. I think they're cool. Maybe I am doing an ad because I want everybody to wear them. I think that these are sick. I'm going to buy these if they're not too expensive. I'll see if I can. I don't know. Maybe they'll go on sale like in a year or so. But I plan to check these out. I think they're pretty cool. I need new slippers because mine are. I've had these slippers for like 4 years and they're starting to get really beat up in like the heel area because I've just been walking in them so much. They're not even cushioned anymore. They're just flat. So I need new slippers, and I'd be happy to have Pochita on my feet. Okay, dear God. Okay, other than that, we have other keeping in the plushie news, quintessential quintuplets. One of my favorite rom-coms lately. I didn't like the movie all that much, but I love the characters and I love Nino in particular. And I have a statue of Nino somewhere back there, right there. I'm pointing at her right now. It's her in the bikini. Anywho, they just announced that they're doing giant plushies of the Nakano quintuplets, and you can now buy your own. But knowing how much the small plushies went for, I sadly I can't get this. I would love to just have a big old Nino sitting in my director's chair over there. But these are probably going to go for like close to 100. And I would not like to. I mean, if anyone wants to donate, send in super chats, man, and help me pay for this, man. I mean, man, I would love that. It's for the show. It's a business expense. Rob, we got to do it. It's a business expense. But yeah, I mean, dude, these things look big. In these pictures, these things look massive. And so, like, I feel like when you're sitting down, like on the ground, like you're basically the size of this plushie. And like, I'm like, I need this in my life. I need it. Anywho, sorry about that. Okay. This story that we're about to talk about is actually insane. This is actually goofy. Okay. And we're going to clown on this a little bit because it's pretty funny. So, the Studio Ghibli president retires after spending company money on his girlfriend. Chad move or beta mentality? Okay, I can't believe I just said that. Okay, so they have quotes from an article. And it says, according to French translation by Ludovic Gottingny, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, and Shuken Jose's magazine, Investigation, and subsequently an English translation by, okay, skip all this. So the guy co-founded the Studio Ghibli with Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata, and previously held the position of Studio Ghibli's president, has now been misappropriating company funds. Instead, money has been going towards the woman Suzuki has been seeing since 2013. Koji Hoshino, the current president of Studio Ghibli, will retire at the end of March and has announced he will be leaving the company in June. Hoshino has said that his reason for leaving is because the company has been neglecting a problem for many years. It is producer Toshio Suzuki, the first president of Ghibli, who is the problem. According to the article, Suzuki fell in love with a woman, identifies as Kanyada in the article, in 2013, in which after he had allegedly donated large sums of his pocket money into helping her open a spa and restaurant. However, neither of them lasted long before undergoing liquidation. What just happened? How are you finna be Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, I think is how it's pronounced actually. But so Studio Ghibli, how are you going to be the CEO, like the co-founder, the president of Studio Ghibli, and then be like, you know what? I'm gonna take all these funds, I'm gonna scoot them over here. This is now mine, and I'm gonna spend the company funds that we could be using to make movies. You know, all the Studio Ghibli classics that were Academy Award nominations and beloved by many. We could keep making those, or I could buy my girlfriend a yacht or something. It doesn't say he did that in particular, but I'm like, bro, what is going on? And now he's talking about it, or he's like, yo, bro, guys, it's not my fault. Love made me do it. Love. I got struck by Cupid. And I don't know how I feel about that. Leave me in the comments below. Is that based or is that idiotic? I think it's kind of based. I mean, he had to go, obviously, from a business expense. But I mean, either he's a super big idiot or he's the most romantic person in the world. You know what I mean? He was willing to sacrifice his career and sacrifice one of the greatest well-known anime companies that there is on his girlfriend. If that's not romance, I don't know what is. Come on. The rest of us are falling short, men. We all need to put our careers on the line for our women. Anyways, but yeah, I'm just baffled by this. When I saw this headline, I said, huh? What? I was like, that did not happen. There's no way. There's no way. Like, how do you do this? But living in the 2020s, and we've seen what every aspect of life is now, politics, entertainment, everything in life. I'm not all that surprised, to be honest with you. Like when I saw it, I had to do a double take, but then I was like, what else is new? All right, and our last story of the day is it's kind of a story that we covered a few weeks ago, but then we decided to, I guess, stop covering it because there were other stories to talk about. But so it's kind of a slow week, so I figured we'll talk about it. Suzume is coming out in a couple weeks. I'm so excited. It's one of my most anticipated films of the year from Makoto Shinkai. And it was just announced over the past week that Suzume has passed Weathering with You in Japan, becoming the number 8 anime film in Japan in terms of box office. And I think that this bodes really well. We've been seeing for every week there is a new Suzume headline about box office records. And it's been crazy. I think that all of this bodes well for the American release. The reviews have been coming out. Obviously, Makoto Shinkai is a genius, a brilliant filmmaker, directed Your Name, which is one of the most iconic anime films of all time. And I would even argue one of just the most iconic films, period, of the past decade. And also directed what I think is even better than Your Name and one of the best animated films of all time and the best anime films of all time. The best anime film of all time, which is Weathering with You. Weathering with You is perfect. I love it. I don't think Titanic's my favorite movie of all time, but I don't think I've seen a movie other than Weathering with You that's as perfect as Weathering with You. We can go on this ad nauseum some other time, but Weathering with You, it's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. Like Titanic, I'm like, oh, that was a goofy line. Oh, why didn't they do another take with that? Oh, look at that. There's a little editing error. With Weathering with You, I'm like, oh no, it's perfect. What can I say? I don't know. That's how I feel about it. But I think that with all that being the case, I'm super excited for it. I think that there are a ton of people excited for it. And hopefully they do another trailer because I don't think that the American audience knows that it's coming. And I think that if they really want them to surpass even Your Name's box office, which is what a lot of the reviews are saying, is that this is his best film and that this is kind of, when you watch Suzume, you understand basically his entire career up to now. You're like, he's been building to this. And at least that's what all the reviews have been saying. Like, this is kind of his magnum opus so far. We'll see how the public agrees or disagrees with that. They might vehemently reject this in favor of Your Name, or they might love it. I don't think it's going to be better than Weathering with You. Because like I said, Weathering with You to me is probably the most perfect movie I've ever seen. But I'm still, that doesn't mean it can't be great. You know, I'm still excited for it. I cannot wait to see it. I have tickets in IMAX. Oh man, I was the first one to get tickets when they were announced. I went to my theater. Tickets were empty. Everybody go get your Suzume tickets. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. And we're going to have a whole blast when that comes out and we're able to all chat about it together and celebrate its praises. Could you imagine if I didn't like Suzume? Could you imagine? Oh man, I would be like, what did I spend the past 3 years waiting for? Yeah, you know what I mean? Let's not even think about that. That's not possible. Can't be possible. But other than that, I think that this really bodes well for the box office run for Suzume. All the reviews have been great. It's still in the high 90s at last time I checked. And everybody's excited for it. The animation looks stunning. The music, Radwimps, is great as well. Makoto Shinkai, obviously. And it's anime. And what's not to love about anime? All right, guys, and that's going to do it for this episode of the Otaku Experience. If you want to follow me more, you can follow me on Twitter at King Tannic Israel, on Instagram at King Tannic, and on my YouTube channel at King Tannic, where I upload not necessarily a different type of content. It's still anime content, but it's more like anime review focused. It's a lot more seasonal things. It's a lot more editing. It's still me. It's still my personality, but it's like a different type of content while covering the same subject, if that makes sense. I think it's a nice companion piece of the Otaku Experience. So if you like what I'm doing here, feel free to support me over there. Special thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett, all the great folks at the Network Network, and of course you guys for making the Otaku Experience possible. And I will see you guys next week.